A gifted young man born into a great destiny, forced to reside on a dangerous desert planet. He must learn the ways of his new home while avoiding danger at every turn. He who controls the spice controls the universe. All of this can only mean one thing. We're comparing Dune in this episode of Retro versus Remake. I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro versus Remake. This is the series where we compare movies to their remakes. Join us as we answer the question, should this remake exist? Today's episode, Dune. I tried to do it in the voice. Dune.
Yeah, the voice.
Yeah.
You're going to need like After Effects for that. Dune. So yes, Dune. The original film came out in 1984. Starring Kyle MacLachlan, Francesca Annis, Patrick Stewart, Sir Patrick Stewart, Sting, Sir Sting.
Is he Sir Sting?
No, he's not Sting. I wish. Jürgen Prochnow, Jose Ferrer, Linda Hunt, Freddie Jones, Richard Jordan, Everett McGill, Kenneth McMillan, Virginia Madsen, and Alicia Witt. Directed by David Lynch, great director.
And there's some Twin Peaks alumnus
in
this. Or they would be, because this came out before Twin Peaks, of course.
A lot of Twin Peaks in this. Let's run that back. What's up, buddy? There's a cat now. Written by Frank Herbert, who did the original 1965 novel, and David Lynch did the screenplay. Music by Toto. And Brian Eno also helped out.
He did the main theme, or the theme for Paul or something.
Yeah. We also have unnecessary pets in this episode, which we'll talk about. Dune 2021, starring everyone. Starring Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Zendaya, Jason Momoa, Javier Bardem, Stephen McKinley Henderson. Stephen McKinley Henderson, David Dastmalchian, Chang Chen, Sharon Duncan Brewster, and Charlotte Rampling. Directed by Denis Villeneuve. Screenplay by John Spadis, Denis Villeneuve, and Eric Roth. Dude, he's allergic.
I'm allergic to cats, so I'm like...
You gotta get out of here, buddy. Screenplay by John Spadis, Denis Villeneuve, and Eric Roth. Music by Hans Zimmer. I mean, just one of the best in the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That that Hans Zimmer.
That guy. Inception guy. Both films are based on the 1965 Frank Herbert novel of the same name.
Well, going back to Hans Zimmer, he actually did this over Tenet.
Really?
He was supposed to, Chris Nolan wanted, because, he does all Chris Nolan movies, like you said, Interstellar, Inception, he did Interstellar too. But he turned it down because he was such a big Dune fan. He's
really?
Like, I want to do that.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's
he
cool.
did this instead.
I mean, that's the right project. Like, I've watched Tenet recently, and then I had to rewatch it so I could understand what the hell I was watching. Underrated, I think.
I gotta check it out. I'm scared, because I heard it's really confusing.
It's confusing as hell. No spoilers, so we'll move on with the movie we are talking about, Dune.
A lot of just returning cast members in the remake that we've reviewed before. Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård. I was happy to see him in this.
He was great.
I heard his voice. I was like, no way, he's in this.
Yeah, I gotta imagine. I'm surprised we don't have anything with Javier Bardem at this point.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I mean, has he been in any remakes?
That's the question, right? Has he been in any remakes? But hey, whatever. So, Dan, first experience with these films.
My first experience with these films was for this podcast. I had, of course, heard of Dune.
Right.
It's big in the old sci-fi world, but had never seen it because, it's Dune.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know about that. I mean, I definitely had expectations, and they definitely were met in 80s cheesiness when it comes to sci-fi. We'll get to that, I'm sure. And, knew about the remake coming out, and good old HBO Go, am I right?
Yep. HBO Max, HBO Go Max, HBO Max Go.
Oh, yeah, HBO Max.
Whatever. It's the same thing at this point. Yeah. Good old HBO Max basically funded this episode.
Yes.
So, when the remake for Dune was announced, I was like, I gotta read Dune because I've never read it. So I had a goal to read the book before I watched the movie. Spoiler, I've never seen either of these films before this episode. And I was actually able to accomplish that because they kept delaying the movie.
Yay!
So I was able to finish the first book. I believe there's like 8 of them.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. The first one is apparently as good as it gets. Starts to go apparently downhill from there. But I will say this, that reading the book helps.
No, I can imagine.
Reading the book helps because these are space epics, and there's a lot of information to pack in. So.
There is a lot that goes into it, and maybe getting ahead of myself, I felt watching both films like this would probably be better as an HBO Max series than just one movie, because both movies are pretty long, and they put a lot of information there. And both films, you're just like, okay, what's happening? You're just paying attention to so many details because there's a lot of like information, exposition just thrown at you, especially in the original film. But we'll get to that, I'm sure. So,
to your point, the original film has a runtime of 2 hours and 17 minutes. The remake, which is one part, 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 35 minutes. So, there's a lot here.
There's a lot there, and just, again, maybe getting ahead of myself. The original film I read was like originally 4 hours.
Really?
And just cut into the 2 hour time. Right. So again, just a lot packed into that.
A lot of information.
And it'll explain why certain things were done in that original film.
Yes. And I'll play the kind of, is it like the book guy throughout this? So I represent that part of the internet. So because there's a lot to unpack, let's kind of unpack it.
Ooh, with synopsis.
Synopsis.
Which is as long as the book.
It's about as long as the book. It's a long book. So getting into my synopsis, good luck everyone. In the far future, actually the year 10,191.
It's pretty far in the future.
The known universe is ruled by Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, Duke Lato of House Atreides. Are you following me? Ruler of the ocean planet Caladan is assigned by the Padishah Emperor to replace House Harkonnen as the fief rulers of Arrakis, a desert planet.
Also known as Dune.
Also known as Dune. A lot of names. Arrakis is a harsh desert planet and the only source of spice, a valuable substance that extends human vitality and is critical for interstellar travel. Also, spoilers, right? So, heavy spoilers in this synopsis. Just giving you a heads up now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
Well, we might just help them understand. They still might not understand the movie.
That's true. In reality, the Emperor intends to have House Harkonnen stage a coup to retake the planet with the aid of the Emperor's Sardaukar troops. They're important, eradicating House Atreides, whose influence threatens the Emperor's control. Lato is apprehensive but sees the political advantages of controlling the Spice Planet and in alliance with its native population, skilled fighters known as the Fremen. Lato's concubine, Lady Jessica, is an acolyte of the Bene Gesserit, an exclusively female order wielding advanced physical and mental abilities. Although Jessica was explicitly instructed by the Bene Gesserit to bear a daughter, whose descendant would become the Quasit Haderach, that's like the Messiah. She instead bore a son, Paul. Throughout his life, Paul is trained by Lato's aides, Duncan Idaho, Gurney Halleck, and the Mentat Thufir Howard, while Jessica trains Paul in Bene Gesserit disciplines. Paul confides in Jessica and Duncan that he is troubled by visions of the future. Due to these visions, the Reverend Mother, Gaius Helen Mohiam, visits Caladan and subjects Paul to a deadly test to assess his impulse control, which he passes the test. House Atreides arrives at Arrakis, also known as Dune. The stronghold on Arrakis, formerly held by House Harkonnen, where Duncan and an advanced party have been learning about the world and the ways of the Fremen. Lato meets a planetologist, Dr. Liet Kynes. Kynes informs Lato, Paul, and Halleck of the dangers of spice harvesting, including giant sandworms which travel under the desert.
Sandworms. I ate them myself. I gotta do my Beetlejuice when we talk about sandworms.
Ah, yes, Beetlejuice. It's that time of year. Before Lato can form an alliance... Good Beetlejuice, by the way.
Thank you.
Before Lato can form an alliance with the Fremen, the Harkonians launch their attack. The Harkonians have a traitor within House Atreides. Spoiler. Lato's personal physician, Dr. Wellington Yui, who disables critical shields, leaving the Atreides nearly defenseless. Idaho is killed, spoilers. Lato is captured, spoilers. And nearly all the House of Atreides is wiped out by the Harkonians. Baron Harkonian has a mentat, whatever, killed Dr. Yui with a poisoned blade. Lato dies in a failed attempt to assassinate the Baron using a poison gas.
Remember the tooth.
Implanted in his tooth by Dr. Yui in exchange for sparing the lives of Lady Jessica and Paul. Because of how these movies work, there's a two-parter on our remake. I basically end our synopsis here. Paul and Jessica survive the attack and escape into the deep desert, where they're given sanctuary by a siege of Fremen. The movies branch off their own endings from here.
Did you get all that? That'll all be on the test.
Too long, didn't read. There's an evil emperor. There's a House Harkonian, which are basically like the Sith in this.
Well, I kind of thought of it, like, because I'm new to this, so I kind of thought of it as, like, it's feuding houses. It's like Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
It's like Capulet, Montague. It's feuding houses over this planet because it has a valuable mineral spice. That's
hey, wait a minute. It's a pretty good synopsis. That's exactly what's happening. Yeah, and there's all kind of political, religious, galactic implications, and it's a pretty expansive universe. So, with that being said, let's just jump right in to our characters, because the plot is confusing. The characters we can understand.
Yay!
All right. In the original 1984 film, we have Kyle MacLachlan of Twin Peaks fame, who plays Paul Atreides, and we have Timothée Chalamet, the boy wonder, who plays Paul Atreides in the 2021 film. As a person that read the book, I think I'll kind of start with, did these characters kind of match what I expected in the book? Kyle MacLachlan, no. But here's why. He looks too old.
Okay.
He looks too old. But that's really the only flaw that I have for him. He just doesn't look like what I expected Paul to look like. Versus Timothée Chalamet, that handsome bastard. He looks kind of like in that teenish, coming of age, beginning of my hero journey type guy. So I felt like from the jump, Timothée Chalamet kind of matched what I expected of Paul Atreides to look like.
Right.
In the original film, they use a lot more kind of like inner dialogue to try to tell the story.
Again, going back to the original movie was 4 hours.
Yeah.
So in order to kind of condense that, they added all this voiceover, this inner monologue. And it's, by today's standards, it's very, very cheesy. It's cheesy and like kind of creepy at the same time, because it's not just like a regular voiceover with like echo. It's like, it's all whispers. I need to whisper to myself.
Fear is the mind.
Yeah. So
silence! I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I'm permitted to pass over me and through.
It's like, what?
Yeah. They could have just done just inner monologue like at a normal
normal room voice. You don't need to whisper it. Like, it's like you're not keeping it a secret. Nobody can hear you. There's no need to whisper.
Yeah, but I'll say this. You're making a great point about this 80s films. Just the stage set in the original film, we're kind of introduced to this world by, for some reason, Princess Arulan, who's like basically like the Emperor's daughter. And it is like classic 80s space opera cheese. She's just right in the camera. You got this like stars in the background. You're just like, here's some bullshit you don't understand yet.
A beginning is a very delicate time.
Yeah. Again, 4 hours, so that was an addition just to help people understand this whole setup, because it is very complex. There's a lot of moving pieces here. So let's give it to you now, because when we introduce it later, hopefully you won't be as lost.
Right.
So Virginia Madison just doing her best to kind of hold your hand and like, here, this is the journey we're going to take.
I did kind of enjoy just leaning into that trope.
I liked it too.
I thought it really actually set some good universe building, which like I said, although McLaughlin didn't look what I expected Paul to look like, his portrayal actually did fit kind of the character. Even though there's a lot of that inner dialogue, I think him, as well as we were talking about Virginia Madison, were tasked with helping you understand Dune, and I think that he's tasked with a lot of that throughout the film, and for me, I think it somewhat takes away from his performance, because he's not able to just be Paul Atreides. He has to explain Paul Atreides. Chalamet, they let other characters, which I thought was a nice adaptation of the book. They let other characters kind of do dialogue while things are happening to them. I felt like he didn't really even talk that much.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's weird because you just spend a lot of time with him, and I still feel like I don't really know him. I mean, more towards the end, I guess, because it kind of shows some emotion behind this, some anger. But he doesn't really give you much, I guess, from his portrayal and whatnot. But just getting into character comparisons, in general, I found the big difference between the two movies is it's pretty bleak in the remake. Nobody's having fun. No. Everybody's pretty miserable. Yeah. There's barely a smile cracked in that remake. You kind of mentioned before we did this, it's Dune's smart Star Wars, right? So Kyle MacLachlan definitely feels more like that.
Yes.
Luke Skywalker, that kind of boy who's very eager to learn about this exciting new world of Dune. He's so excited to just see the planet.
Why do you look like a boy?
But he has to have that kind of that wonder of a boy. Oh, I want to see the worms. Tell me about the worms. Tell me about the planet, Dr. Yui. He's so excited to just learn about everything. And again, holding your hand, I'm not going to watch a video about Dune, so you guys can learn it. So he definitely just comes across as more joyful, a little more innocence in his portrayal, as opposed to the remake where he's a lot of brooding, a lot of I don't know, just teen angst, I guess, in his performance. He's not really whiny or anything. No, he doesn't really show any joy.
He's a lot of times he's kind of this silent kind of, like you said, angsty protagonist. I think for the world that they built, both do their job, right? In this case, Paul is sort of a blank slate at this point in the film. He's destined to be something, right? And he's at this point where it could tip in any direction. So I think Chalamet lets himself be this blank vessel that as part 2 comes out, I'm sure they're going to explore him quite a bit more. But McLaughlin definitely seemed, like you said, more joyous, more kind of energetic. Hey, I'm going to go after this adventure, you mentioned, kind of like a Luke Skywalker. And that it's really good on the front end, and as he becomes more of potentially the quasi-heteric, they start relying on more voiceover toward him, because to me it feels okay, these things are happening, this is kind of what's happening, next scene, this is kind of what's happening. And Chalamet, he awakens kind of like the character in the book when he gets on this planet, and he starts to, like you mentioned towards the end, starts to pick up a little bit more.
But I think for the films, both respective films, they both do a really good job. They're both pretty easy to follow protagonists. You can get on their side. There's nothing really I mean, it's a little cringy in the 80s, but it's expected.
This is expected cringe, and actually appreciated cringe in my book because I'm like this, like the universe that they built out. It's not like how I imagine the book, but I like the universe that they created. Like there's a lot of good variety between the planets and stuff like that. And McLaughlin really helps just kind of like guide you through these stakes. Whereas Timothée Chalamet gets to rely a little bit more on this ensemble cast to help with the stakes. So in that regard, I think Kyle has the more work to do.
Yeah, he definitely does a lot more of the heavy lifting because he is the one that's like really explaining everything to you. So he has a lot of weight on his shoulders. And I think, for what it is, he carries it well.
I actually really liked his portrayal. You know, I think if we cut a little bit of the inner dialogue, but I don't think you can because then the movie doesn't work.
Because you're just like, what's happening?
Versus like, that sort of explaining, taking you through the scenes type of portrayal, I thought was actually impressive, and I think he handled it so well actually. And Chalamet just like felt to me like, all right, we're putting you in this universe, and I felt like he adapted to the universe that he was in. So they both do their jobs. I actually, in terms of the acting, I give a slight edge to McLaughlin. In terms of like fitting the universe, which I think is kind of important, Chalamet, I think, fit more of what I expected. And I'm kind of, because it's a 2-part series, I'm kind of interested to see what they do with him.
I think that's like sort of a problem we're going to have with the remake is like I feel like a lot of the characters are going to flesh out more in part 2. So it's limited in that respect. So a slight edge to Kyle MacLachlan just because he does have to carry so much in that original.
So much weight. Before they let a little baby do it. We'll get to that. Moving forward, I would say because, again, these films are split, I would say the next kind of most important character is Lady Jessica. So, in the 1984 film, we have Francesca Annis, who plays Lady Jessica.
Paul, this is very important.
A concubine of Duke Lato and mother of Paul Atreides. And in the remake, it's Rebecca Ferguson who plays Lady Jessica.
Will you protect Paul?
With my life.
Who, again, the Bene Gesserit mother. Not wife of Lato, but father of Paul.
Right. Concubine.
Concubine. Man. You want to leave this one on?
I mean, I know she's only a concubine, and she's not, I guess, the queen or whatever it is, the status to a duke's wife. But, for all intents and purposes, let's just call her the queen of that planet.
Effectively,
of that house. And I just thought Francesca Annis, I just thought she just felt more regal.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just the way her poise, just the way she handled herself, the way she just communicated with Paul, their back and forth. And she just felt like she just had that air about her. And but she is a concubine at the end of the day. So if you think about it like that, and then what Rebecca Ferguson did, it kind of works. She doesn't really seem that proper and everything. She just seems got a little more grit to her.
I can see that. And kind of going back to being like the shepherd of the book, as it were. I completely flipped for me here, where like Francesca Annis felt more like what I expected from Lady Jessica. Especially in these early scenes, because in the book, she is kind of like this regal, kind of proper character. She's basically wife and everything but name, So, like, the only reason that Lato hasn't married Jessica is because of the political implication. So basically, by not having a wife, it allows him to like move, politically. So I just felt like Francesca Annis like fit what I expected the character to act like. But I think as the movie moves on, because Rebecca Ferguson does have to, as things progress on Arrakis, has to like slot in this more kind of like survival grit mode. I think she fits well on sort of the back end of the film.
Right.
But I'll say this, that like, as I watched her, completely the opposite feeling I had for Chalamet. I was like, this doesn't feel like Jessica to me.
Right.
Like, I just, nothing that she was doing. I think it was just kind of like her look and the way she carried herself. She didn't feel like the Bene Gesserit.
Yeah. It's weird how, because she definitely had a lot more to do. We talked about how Kyle MacLachlan did out all that heavy lifting.
Yeah.
You know, Rebecca Ferguson kind of does that.
Yes.
She's the one kind of, instead of the voiceover, she's the one kind of saying the things as they're happening. So, you know, she helps us get from A to B.
Yeah.
And she does do a lot, but yeah, in terms of like the way I was watching the movie, I was like, she should be Regal, and I really liked that original portrayal.
Yes, yeah, the original portrayal I think was like kind of spot on in terms of like what I expected that character to act like. You know, kind of going back to the heavy lifting thing, Rebecca Ferguson basically plays Paul's inner monologue during like the Gom Jabbar scene where the torture box and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like, where the original movie would have made that, which it actually did, inner dialogue. Like, oh, my hand is burning, the pain, and then you fucking see it. It's pretty interesting portrayal. But she's outside the door, and she's like, oh, mine is, fear is the mind killer. And,
Right.
the pain. You know, like, she's explaining what's happening without directly telling you what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think because of her status as the Bene Gesserit, it's kind of like High Witch almost, she's forced to do a lot of the explaining in the movie, and I think it may actually hurt the character, because like you mentioned, Francesca's able to just kind of just be real.
Right. Yeah.
Works really well.
I really liked her portrayal, and yeah, I guess because I liked it so much in that original film, when I was watching the remake, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get the same kind of vibe from her.
I 100% agree with you. I was just like, oh man, like, I was like, they kind of got it in the first movie, weirdly enough. Like, besides some of the cheese, which, you know, that's kind of
You know, I mean,
there's
cheese everywhere, but
yeah.
So
I was like, all right, let's see what they do. And like, I hate to say this, but like, of all of the casting, I felt like that was like a miss for me.
I can see that.
Now, who knows, right? Part 2, maybe
when she drinks that water,
yeah,
maybe she's like, whoa, she's my favorite character.
yeah, because like, she's a badass in the book. Like, she's basically the second most powerful person in the universe, based off like the world that we're given here. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was interesting. I'll say this as well for Ferguson's character. She does do a better job of explaining the history of the Bene Gesserit, like the fact that like they've basically like been seeding planets with like mythology, in the instance that at some point in centuries, maybe in the future, like they might create this little messiah thing they've been trying to build for, you know, millennia basically. So like, I think she does a good job of like explaining that kind of, but you know, that's about it. She's good at explaining. She's not like, she doesn't feel like Jessica. So that's interesting portrayal, and definitely an edge to the original.
Yeah, I just wanted just one little thing about the original, like, going back to kind of Kyle MacLachlan just being older. Like they almost look like they're the same age.
I know.
I'm like, that's his mom.
That's honestly, that's my only issue with MacLachlan. Like he that side part doesn't make him look younger. It's the Twin Peaks guy. Moving forward, another character that's like important, really important, is Duke Lato Atreides, basically the head of House Atreides. In the original film, he's played by Jürgen Prochnow.
It'll be good to get to our new home and have all this upset behind us.
Who's Paul's father in the book, and Oscar Isaac in the remake.
We are House Atreides. There is no call we do not answer. There is no faith that we betray.
Let me tell you something. These guys both are pretty damn good.
Oh yeah,
at being that guy, right? I kind of like the beard look that Jorgen brought to it. He definitely, like you said, that regal.
Yeah.
He carried himself very proper and like I bought that he was like the Duke Lato. You know, just had a good air about him. And Oscar Isaac, I mean, it's Oscar Isaac. It's Oscar Isaac.
He can't really do wrong.
I was like, am I going to follow this guy in the battle? like, I believe in this guy, man. I just think that, like, once Lato gets introduced in both films, I was like, all right, here's that universe build right here. This is the head of House Atreides. And it kind of, like, in both films, I think it grounded what to expect, because there's so much. It's a space opera, basically. There's so many different threads, like the Harkonnens, and you know, there's like weird worm people in the original movie. It's like, here's a human guy, square jaw. He's a leader. I get what's happening, and I think it kind of just brought me into the universe once his majesty, as it were, was introduced.
No, I mean, they're both really strong portrayals.
Yeah,
I think Oscar Isaac maybe gets just a little bit more because of the longer runtime. We just focus on his Lato a little bit longer, but still really good portrayals. I don't really have anything negative to say. I just feel like, again, going back to that original, I feel like he probably had a bigger role. It was probably cut a lot. There's some awkward flashback where we see Lato and Jessica like just naked in bed talking, and then it's gone in 1 second. It's like, well, why did I just see that?
Right.
So, you know, I'm sure he had more screen time with his wife, but he barely has any in that original film. It's just like moments with the two of them together. So Oscar Isaac gets to have scenes with Rebecca Ferguson where it's just the two of them, and you know, they get to kind of, you know, share their thoughts about something. We need to talk about Paul. I don't want to talk about Paul. But you know, in terms of capturing that regal feeling of a Duke, they both absolutely nail it, and you know, I really don't have anything negative to say about these two guys. They're really good.
Yeah, no, for sure. Here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's this is about as close to a push as I think I'm gonna get. Like, I was pleasantly surprised by Jurgen. I was like, this guy is kind of like crushing it, dude. You know, even with like the ring is important in both films, but like when he's got the signet and he's like, you know, putting his seal on stuff, I'm like, yeah, this guy's in charge. Like, Oscar Isaac to me is just, he's a phenomenal actor. What he was able to bring to the role was really impressive. And, you know, I can't say enough about these two actors who were basically playing support.
Right.
You know, they bring a lot to this supporting role, and I was really impressed. So,
I'll just say this: I got more from Oscar Isaac, just like in terms of what he wants to do with the Fremen and how he wants to kind of treat them as allies more. I got more of that vibe. Again, probably benefits from the longer runtime. We kind of got a little bit of that from Jurgen's performance, but it's definitely apparent with Oscar Isaac that he really cares about the Fremen, doesn't want to kind of take advantage of them like they were with the Harkonnen.
Yeah, the Harkonnens. Yeah. You make a good point. Like, that is where Oscar Isaac actually really shines here, is that he is able to portray that, like, he wants to have an alliance with the Fremen.
Right.
It wasn't as apparent in the original that was the case. Like, it's a very important part of, like, expectations, because both of these characters, I mean, it's the same character, but both these men know that they're basically walking into a trap.
Right.
But they're like, well, maybe I can navigate it this way. And I think Oscar Isaac really gets that kind of like tortured, I'm going into this, you know, dangerous situation. And like, even when he's talking to Paul, he's like, I need you. Like, I can't have you running off in the battle. Like, you're an important part of this. And Oscar Isaac really does, he lays out the stakes really well. So,
yeah. And the lengths he went to in order to save the spice miners, just like organizing. It's like, we can only fit 6 people on the ship. No, we're going to put 7 people on the ship. Yeah. You know, just taking that extra step. So you get, you know, again, just gets a little bit more to do with Oscar Isaac.
Yep. And that that is a pretty good portrayal of something that happens in the book. You know, like they see the spice, about to be destroyed by this worm.
Sandworms. I hate myself.
Yeah. So,
any chance to do Beetlejuice? I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Anytime. And that does show like Lato's morals, ethics, and just like he's a strong leader, and Oscar Isaac pulls it off really well. Whereas like Jordan, I just like the cut of this guy's jib. He's a cool looking guy, man. So kudos to both actors. But you're right. If I'm being really objective about this, Oscar Isaac is doing more work, and look, what do you expect? It's Oscar Isaac.
Yeah.
He's the best. In terms of like universe building as well, this next character who's more of an antagonist for both of these movies sets a lot of framework here, and I gotta give it up to Kenneth McMillan in the 1984 film, who's playing Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, who encompasses his doom.
And Stellan Skarsgård in the remake, who plays the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen.
House Harkonnen would never dream of violating the sanctity of your order.
Stellan Skarsgård was giving me big Brando energy in the movie, just like the bald head.
Oh yeah,
like the,
very pale.
Yeah, super pale, large. Brando, I enjoyed that kind of muted, sort of mysterious Baron. It's one of those things where, again, we have to say this. In the next film he's going to be really, involved. But the way that they portray, even in the books, both these characters float.
Man flies.
they get up there, man. The way they portrayed it in the remake, I thought was interesting. It was much more muted, pulled back.
They're
snake-like.
So snake-like I can be.
To quote every other movie here.
Yeah.
No, they definitely held back in his portrayal because why? Because they're setting him up huge in that second film, right? He gets sort of almost killed, and probably maybe a little deformed or something. I don't know.
Sure.
So I'm just really excited to see him because we didn't really see him fly too much in the remake.
Right.
But oh boy, in that original.
Oh my God, dude! Let me tell you something. The scenery getting chewed up by Kenneth McMillan, it's kind of the movie.
Yeah.
It's I'm bouncing around, floating. I'm fucking stabbing this guy.
I got my face got all these weird pus and pimples, and I don't know what's coming out of
the
him.
doctors have sometimes they have eyeballs, sometimes they have
sometimes they don't have ears.
What's going on? I don't know. He gets it though. He
loves it.
He's in charge.
Got bad haircuts for everybody.
Everybody. Yeah.
Shave the middle. Okay.
He's just a literal ball of energy.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know what to say. He's out there, dude.
I talk about the remake not really having a lot of joy. Kenneth McMillan is all the joy in that original film, man. He's just loving life.
He is chaotic evil personified, and just man, it's such an interesting 80s villain portrayal, man.
It's thank God it's not the mustache twirling. I'm going to just be evil. This guy's just I'm having a great time here. We're gonna fuck that guy up. I'm gonna rip his heart thingy out, just rub his blood all over. Sting, I love your body. That was such a crazy scene. It's let's just have Sting as under. I know, I'm getting way ahead of myself here.
Well, when I realized that was Sting, and we'll get to that, because we don't. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, dude, you get so many random scenes out of this.
Kenneth McMillan just has so many weird appetites and fetishes.
Yes.
And it's like so many random things. Like when he captures Jessica, he's like, I just want to spit on you. It's like, what the fuck is going on, man?
It's true, man. It's true. Like, going back to that sort of the book thing I was talking about. Now, did I expect that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like he does capture parts of the book, like the fetishes. Like he does have these like sex slave guys that like he kills sometimes. People are trying to attempt to poison him through his sex slaves and stuff like that in the book. It's like he's just a very cruel character, but like he plays with this fun air that you're like, right. you're not rooting for the bad guy, but you're like, all right, let's see what this guy's gonna do.
Every time he's on this screen, you're just fixed on him. Yeah, you're just drawn in. You're just like, man, what is he gonna do next?
Big energy from Kenneth McMillan, and like I said, I know Skarsgård. We're kind of setting things up, so we're gonna get to see more of his evil, and I think he's gonna be able to pull off sort of the statecraft a little bit better of being a Baron. But like, screw that! Like, Kenneth McMillan is literally bouncing off the walls. It's insane, man.
Just has like oil showers. Yeah, and shit. I don't know what's going on.
It's so weird. It's so weird. Just goop everywhere.
It's like, yes, I love you. Your deformed face.
There's like random stuff in this movie where like later on there's a character that gets poisoned, which does happen in the book. What doesn't happen in the book is the way they try to treat it. There's a cage with like a cat in it that I think has like a rat. So he's like, yeah, you gotta milk this cat so you don't die of the poison. I'm like, what? It's like, sometimes when like you're watching something that like branches off from the book, you're like, oh, that's not like what I wanted. This was like, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want, man. Like if you want to like put them in race cars. I don't like make it speed. I don't care. Just give me more of whatever that was. Inject that shit into my veins. Cause like that was the 80s just fucking crazy epic. And this guy encompassed it in one character. Yeah. What a fucking phenomenal villain.
It's definitely one of the most memorable villains like ever. Like, dude. I'm just like, what the fuck were they thinking? But like, it works. It fucking works, man.
It works so well. It works so well, dude. Fucking.
And he's just so goddamn disgusting.
Yeah.
He's just like, just looking at him, you feel so repulsed and you feel dirty looking at him. But at the same time, you can't look away.
It's a lot like that. Like you really can look away from this guy, and it's wild, man. Yeah. I'll say that like in the '84 film, his just persona, his whole vibe is like what kind of builds out this universe. Versus 2021, where it's more of like the look, right? Like he's pale, he's mysterious, and they do that with the Harkonnens. So just to kind of like help talk about that subject, in the original film, you've got Paul L. Smith, who plays Raban, who's kind of like the Emperor's like kind of nephew guy. Kind of important. And the remake is Dave Bautista, who plays Glasso Raban.
Well, should we also throw in Sting here?
Yeah, okay. So you get a twofer. You get a twofer in the original. Paul L. Smith plays Raban, and Sting plays Fade Roth. Fade is an important character. I don't recall anyone.
He was not in the remake.
Yeah, that's what.
At least part one.
Yeah, if he was not named or like really showcased. Fade is an important character throughout the film. Kind of minor spoiler. He's sort of like Paul's rival.
Okay.
When it's all said and done. Which is why you get that epic fight scene.
Okay, that's a little more. Wasn't really explained that well in the original film because you don't really see the two of them interact until the very end.
I actually got confused at one point because like Raban and Routh were there, and I kind of forgot like the way they had it. It was almost like this Tweedledee kind of scenario. But like I was getting the two characters confused because of kind of how important Fade becomes in the book.
Okay.
Sting gets a little bit of that bump from Macmillan. Sting's not doing much throughout the film.
Not really.
He's
just kind of being Sting,
menacing in the background. Right?
Yeah.
Sting.
Evil grinning in the background with his hair spiked up, and sometimes he's just wearing underwear. Very oiled up. Wearing underwear.
The tantric sex master himself. when he's just oiled up in his underwear, he's like, gaze upon the body of Sting. I was like, all right.
And Macmillan's like, I'm gonna gaze upon the body.
It's so good. I'm very interested to see what they do with Fade in the next in Dune Part 2. What we got from Sting, it was quiet until it wasn't, and when he started to kind of pick up towards the end, I thought he shepherded that role pretty well towards the end, but because the setup for him wasn't the greatest,
right?
It was definitely lost how kind of critical of a rival I think he is to Paul.
Yeah, for sure. I had no idea they were supposed to be rivals until you just said it. Like they do have that fight at the end, but I was confused. Like, well, why are they fighting?
Right.
Here? I don't really understand.
The stakes were not set up properly, in my opinion.
Right. Definitely.
Like Sting's character is kind of like a match for Paul.
Okay.
And this is a very dangerous and fraught situation, which is kind of poetic, actually, giving props to the 1984 film, that is happening in the High Court, that the fate of the universe, as it were, is being literally played out with a knife fight. It's kind of cool, man. Space knife fights. But since there is no Fade in the remake, at least not yet, we'll kind of hone back in on Paul Smith's Raban and Dave Bautista. Paul Smith, just kind of there.
Yeah.
Just kind of there.
He didn't really do anything. I know he's supposed to be kind of the leader of the army, but he has a menacing face.
Yep.
He seems evil. He has that weird drink that kills something, and he drinks it.
Yeah, it was like slightly.
He's kind of like he's almost like Macmillan light.
Yeah, super light. Yeah. Macmillan 64. It's just it's whatever. I think that because he's not a son, but he's kind of like plays the role of a failed son almost. Like he does not do well when he's put in charge. Yeah. I'll give Smith that I believe that guy could be incompetent because he's just kind of sitting there doing it. He's got a goofy haircut and kind of the same outfit as Macmillan, but just none of that big energy.
Yeah, I mean,
which isn't his fault.
Yeah, I think he probably had a bigger role, but we got to cut a lot of things, so
true.
He is kind of just in the background, and then eventually he's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah. Which fine. Mm-hmm. It's one of those characters that it's fine that happens because he's a placeholder.
He's not Macmillan. He's not Sting.
Right.
So he's the odd man out.
He is the odd man out. So on the other hand, I felt that Dave Bautista, this was a great role for him. He's been doing a lot of this sci-fi stuff. He's in Blade Runner 2049 now. He obviously Guardians of the Galaxy. His career has really been taking off, and I felt that he where Skarsgård doesn't get to menace, I think Bautista took up that mantle. He's a scary looking guy in this film, and he has so much rage.
Yeah, very angry.
That scene where the House Atreides is taking over Arrakis. He's like, no, no, gotta kill him. And it's whoa, bro, take it easy. We got a plan.
We're not going to kill them.
I also like that he's weird and pale. I like the Harkonnens have a distinctive look, and Bautista is kind of the one portraying that in the film.
Yeah. Again, I think he's going to have a bigger role in part 2.
Yeah.
But he does well in his role. I don't know if I would call it more memorable. It's kind of, again, he's still kind of in the background because they're not really getting too deep with the Harkonnen in their side. So I am curious to see. I hope, I'm sure he'll have a lot more to do in part 2.
Yeah. He definitely felt like a competent villain.
Yeah.
Versus like Paul Smith, I didn't really get that, right? He was just kind of there.
Yeah. I'd be scared seeing Bautista. Yeah. For sure. The other guy, kind of a joke.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like why, given the fact that like he kind of messes things up, I think the Bautista angle that they're playing here is that it's because he can't get out of his own way with his anger.
Right.
He doesn't think ahead.
Right.
Whereas like Smith was just like, oh no.
I fucked up at work. I'm not gonna tell the boss.
Right.
For 2 years.
Exactly right. Exactly right. There's like a Bautista who's like just trying to like hide the fact that he's failing. I could see that. I mean, we haven't seen it yet, but I could see that at some point. So, it's a package deal, but all roads lead back to McMillan.
Yeah.
And Skarsgård, we'll put a question mark next to that. Maybe he'll reach those heights. So, those are your kind of like major villains. Going back, because the characters are how we build out this story. Going back to our good guys, in the original film, Sir Patrick Stewart plays Gurney Halleck.
Mood's a thing for cattle and love play, not fighting.
I'm sorry, Gurney.
Not sorry enough.
And in the remake, returning characters recently, Josh Brolin is Gurney Halleck, who is the weapons master of House Atreides and one of Paul's mentors.
Choose your blade. I've had quite a day, Gurney. Give us a song instead.
In terms of like kind of going back to the book, Gurney is very important. He's like basically, besides Jessica, the person that's trained Paul.
Right.
He's got a high sense of honor and duty. If he fails at his duties, he takes it super personal and is basically knows that they're going into this dangerous desert planet and wants to prepare Paul for basically anything. Patrick Stewart is Patrick Stewart, right? He definitely pulls off this like, I'm a man of honor.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then they put him in a crazy space shield. Talking about like things that like I didn't expect after reading the books. Like I didn't think the shield would look like Tetris.
What's wrong with Gurney?
I remember previously just like watching it like when she got like, what the fuck? I was like, I don't know, like square guys.
Yeah, it's like Gumby characters is what they become.
Yeah, and there's I sent you a GIF of him like when they were having a space battle. There's a dog in the movie for no reason. I don't recall.
There's a lot of dogs in the original. A lot of pugs and bulldogs.
And it's just like Patrick Stewart was like an Uzi, just like for the dog. He's just like ah. It's one of the greatest gifts on the planet if you ever get a chance to look that up. Yeah, Patrick Stewart is good. Yeah, it's good. He's taken out of the movie quite a bit because of the circumstances of the story. But I buy that him and McLaughlin have a connection. Like I buy that they like respect each other, and that Gurney Halleck is capable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, most of that is done in that one kind of like training fight scene at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely kind of like the teacher-student relationship is definitely apparent there. Again, just very proper, very regal. Patrick Stewart. Did miss him when he was gone. And then he does come back, and he's, and then the 2 years pass, Patrick Stewart, bald, but he's got the hair on the sides, and that grows like after the 2 years. That's like almost like a mullet going on there, so that's kind of cool. It's Patrick Stewart. You're not gonna be mad that he was in the movie.
No.
Josh Brolin, very capable too. Doesn't really capture that kind of proper regal thing. No. Kind of more of the gritty, kind of almost like a drill sergeant.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't want to say grunt, but he's got kind of like that. I'm a military force. I'm not really like the brains of the operation. Whereas Patrick Stewart, I think, kind of could slot into that role.
Yeah.
So Brolin, I think, just looked like physically, like capable in that role. I do think that he doesn't come across as like, how do you put it? He doesn't have that same sort of mental command that I was kind of expecting, because he's supposed to fit both those roles pretty well. I mean, Brolin, I mean, he's a big guy. He looks real tough. And
huge in this movie.
Yeah, you know what?
Is he like 60 now?
That's crazy, man.
Josh Brolin's just jacked. It's great.
And I thought that like when they had the fight with the shields and stuff like that, I was like, that's when I started to feel like this 2021 movie is capturing some of the things that I imagined from the book. It's like the shield wasn't a big block that like they were like flying at points in the 84 movie. Like I don't know, but like that blue with the red when you know you're in danger. I thought that it was a very smart choice visually.
It's like a video game.
A lot like a video game. And I thought that like it would help, because like if you're gonna have giant like battles with guys with shields, like having that red flash, like okay,
that guy's in danger, he's gonna die. Yeah, it's really helpful.
It's so smart of a choice. And you know, Brolin, you know, we'll see, right?
Yeah.
But like it is a character that by definition has to like kind of be out of the film for major points.
Yeah.
So.
And he's Josh Brolin. He's angry. He's jacked. It's what he does. And unfortunately, again, we're gonna see him more in part 2, because he's just kind of gone at a certain point in this movie.
Just kind of gone. And you know what's interesting is I felt that like the way Patrick Stewart played it, right? Like his connection with Paul Atreides felt like more like fun. Like that teacher dynamic, they felt like they like just really like loved each other. I felt that in the remake, Duncan, Idaho fit that a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So in terms of like the film, I'm actually gonna give a slight edge to Patrick Stewart for his Gurney Halleck. One, because he actually has the balance of the guitar thing, which is cool. Space pug fight, weird Tetris shields, crazy mullet. They gave Patrick Stewart, because they actually continued the story.
Right.
They gave him something to do. So he's got a definite advantage in my book. Brolin looked tough, but didn't really feel like Gurney to me. I feel like Stewart, though he was older and not as physically imposing, had that like, I'm teaching you the ways of the world air to him. Which I think when you look older, you kind of have that gravity to do that. Brolin, who is older but looks like...
Yeah, he looks amazing.
God, he's fucking great. But like, I'm not talking about like anything that he does as the character. I'm just like, look at this fucking guy. He looks tough. I'll say that, yeah, Patrick Stewart to me kind of edges it. But, you know, both of them were fine.
Again, we'll see what he does in part 2. You know, it's... when they have that reunion in the original film, like, you know, after Paul has changed significantly, and just like, is that you? And just like, that's a really cool moment.
Dirty man. Yeah, it is a cool moment, and perhaps Brolin will get that moment. Yeah. Stay tuned, I guess. A character that I thought, like I mentioned, was elevated in the remake
significantly.
Yep, here we go. In the 1984 film, we have Richard Jordan, who played Duncan, Idaho. And in the remake, you got Jason Momoa. My man. It's Duncan, Idaho.
Duncan.
Oh boy.
A sword master of House Atreides and one of Paul's mentors.
Yes, I'm going to Arrakis tomorrow with the advance team.
Richard Jordan in the original film, I mean, you know, I guess in terms of like the look, you know, he's kind of a handsome guy, but like, that's it.
He's in the movie for like 30 seconds. he's barely in that film. I mean, yeah, you're introduced, so I'll go over him first. So you're introduced to Duncan right when he's leaving. Paul's like, where are you going? I'm going to the planet. I'll see you later. And then you see him like reunion with the father. He's like, hey, you're here. Yep, I'm here. And then you see him in the Tetris blocky shield have one of the most comical deaths in the entire film. Yeah. Because, you know, a slow blade penetrates the shield. Yeah. And then, like, there's a bullet just slowly going towards him. He doesn't move at all. Right. He just kind of lets it happen and then, he just fucking dies.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. I had to rewind his death. I was laughing so hard the first time.
Yeah. I just, Duncan Idaho in the book is a lot more like Jason Momoa. Yeah. He's cool. He's got sex appeal. You know? He's like, I'm gonna go out to the planet and check out the local fair. You know, and I felt that Jason Momoa was believable as like a capable swordsman who like
absolutely
look at this guy taking out Sardaukar left and right. This is the Emperor's most elite forces, and he's like, I got this, man. And they use Jason Momoa for foreshadowing, you know, and Paul's dreams and stuff like that. Momoa, as usual, he's just got that fun energy.
It's just Jason Momoa.
It's Jason Momoa.
You like it, you like it. If you don't like it, it's more Jason Momoa, unfortunately.
Yeah. Like, does he really fit? Like, there's nothing about him that feels similar to anyone else.
Right, yeah. He definitely just like, we're just put Jason Momoa in a movie and everybody else is doing the Dune thing, but Jason Momoa is doing Jason Momoa.
Right. And it works. It works. It's like you said, if you like Jason Momoa, but like, is that what I expected Duncan Idaho to kind of like look and act like? Not at all the times, but like, it was a pretty good portrayal because like he immediately set himself apart as a warrior, which I think Idaho does in the book, and you know, his death has a lot more meaning.
Yeah, there's a lot more weight in his death, right? Because you followed the character.
Right.
He has a much better portrayal of the relationship between him and Paul.
Yes.
And like you said, that foreshadowing, Paul tells him, like, I had a dream that you died.
Right.
And it's like, oh, shit. Well, thanks for telling me.
Right.
So, yeah, as an audience member, you're kind of like, well, when is it going to happen? Because you know it's coming. And it's a pretty fucking cool death.
It's a super cool death. This 2021 film does a very good job of early on showing Paul's visions. Paul thinks that by being there that he can stop Duncan Idaho's death. And it's a nice juxtaposition because it's like, no, dude, just because you can see kind of the future doesn't mean that it's going to play out the way you want it to. And you get this instant, like, damn, man, Momoa's out of the movie. Like, the weight of it. And then it also, like, again, raises the stakes for Paul because he's like, just because I can see things doesn't mean I can stop things. And it's a super cool death.
It is. I'm just gonna go into it because like you think he's dead because he gets stabbed. He's got a fucking blade just in him, and then like they're coming through the door. They're gonna get Paul and his mom, and then Momoa just comes out, takes the blade out. He's like, "Fuck you, I'm alive, motherfucker!" Yeah. He just keeps going, man. So it's a pretty badass death.
Oh, totally. So I'm super impressed by Momoa's ability to like make me care about him that quickly in a film. He's just really good at that. Turn around, wink and a nod. Hey kid, I'm gonna go fuck some shit up. And like, what an honorable, cool death. It's like, whatever, man. I'm still taking out more guys. Saves the people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he really sacrifices himself. He like knows, he's like, oh, I gotta fucking protect the kid and the mom.
Yeah.
It's like, and only I can do it. So yeah, it's really badass. Just a lot more fleshed out.
Yes.
Obviously.
Yes.
Like we said, he's like in the original movie for like half a minute. So it's just woo, do I care that this guy dies? As opposed to Momoa, who, like I said, you got that like a really well established relationship with Paul. And because Paul cares about him, you as an audience member care about him, so his death like has weight.
Yeah. This next character, I'm just gonna kind of basically gloss over, because the scene that you're talking about where Duncan Idaho dies is kind of pivotal to moving the story forward in the remake. So I'm gonna introduce some other random characters, but like just to say, hey, did they kind of look like that? In the original film, you had Freddie Jones, who plays Thufir Hawat.
Those sounds could be imitated.
Had the crazy eyebrows
And the red lips.
Yep. And then the
Human computers or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then the remake, it's Stephen McKinley Henderson, who's Thufir Howard, who I'm just gonna say this, he wins.
3 guild navigators, a total of 1.46 million, 62 salari.
I just liked his look. Like he really, the Thufirs have, like you said, that ability to like see things and like, they do a lot of mental calculations. And I just thought that like, the eyebrows thing, I guess you look different, but like, just the way Stephen McKinley kind of carried himself, he felt like almost like a sage, you know, like he felt like a guy who...
Yeah. He has a certain amount of gravitas.
Yes.
When he's just where he carries himself. And they did this really cool thing too, where like where his eyes go white.
Yeah.
When he's like kind of, like I said, kind of like a human computer thing. And it's just a subtle thing, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I don't have a lot to say about him, but I thought that like in this universe building that they did in the remake, I thought I was like, yeah, that's kind of dope, because other characters are mentats. Thufir Howard is a mentat, which human computer kind of deal. It's kind of like Bene Gesserit light, like I can kind of calculate things, but I don't know things.
Right.
So like other characters do the eye white thing, so it's like, oh yeah, that's a mentat, and you know, again, nice quick visual, which I think this movie does well. Like we said with the shield, shield's blue, now it's red. Dead guy, right? Guy's eyes turn white. He's calculating.
Right. Yeah.
You know? Thought it was pretty good. In the there's two doctor characters that I want to get to. So we'll start with our spoiler alert traitor,
Dr. Yui or Yue.
Yeah, Yue.
I like Yue better. Yui sounds too much like Dewey, and then I think of DuckTales.
True. I agree with you, actually. In the original film, Dean Stockwell plays Dr. Wellington Yue.
Excuse me, milady. The Harkonnens may have tampered with them medically.
In the remake, Chang Chen plays Dr. Wellington Yue, a Sook doctor in the employ of House Atreides.
What do you want?
I jammed their comms and lowered their shields. I delivered the Duke and his family.
So, kind of like your general medicine man. If you got an injury, or you got poison, Yue's there. There's a lot of kind of backstory for the guy. It's not like it's easily explained. Like his wife's been captured by the Harkonnens. He doesn't know whether she's alive or dead, and he's trying to get her back, which is why he's willing to betray the Honorable Duke Lato. This one's tough for me because like I thought Chang Chen was like good.
I thought he was good, but I didn't think he really brought anything new to it.
I agree.
Yeah, and I liked how they kind of foreshadowed his betrayal a little bit more in the original film, because like he's examining bodies. There's messages in the dead bodies that he has to get, like his orders. So you know, he gets a little bit more to do.
I agree. Yeah, like Chang, for someone that's so kind of important, I don't think they spend enough time with him because Yue, whatever, his betrayal is completely unexpected. Like everyone inherently trusts him in the house just as much as they trust Duncan, as much as they trust Gurney. Like all of these characters are pivotal to Paul's training. They are loyal to the Duke, and to have any one of them betray is like a massive thing. And Chang Chen is like, oh yeah, that guy kind of
that guy was in that one scene. He's the traitor.
Yeah,
I just don't feel like he had enough screen time. Like I feel like you should have felt like oh, he's the one that betrayed them. Like because I think he gets a lot more screen time in the original film. He's with Paul in the beginning when we meet Paul. You know, he's got time with the Duke, but he's not really doing anything in that remake. He's just like, you know, we talk about that they use the longer screen time to, you know, draw out like Oscar Isaac and Dave Bautista and like all those other characters. They just get more to do, but he's one of the characters that got less to do.
Right. I mean, like the way we felt about Duncan Idaho in this remake, could you imagine if someone like Duncan Idaho betrayed them? You'd be like, holy shit.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Chang betrays him. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you know, we've moved to this phase of the story.
Right, exactly.
So this is a character that's definitely hurt by a lack of screen time in a movie where they offer screen time up to characters that may not even necessarily need them. Mm-hmm. But again, we don't know until we see the full work. But kind of a letdown, because I think the original does portray the portrayal and the things that are happening, like you said, with the messages a lot better. Yeah. So, it's a shame because you know it's not like Chang did anything wrong. He's just not, he's not in the movie.
Didn't give him anything to do.
Yeah. And then I bring him up because of this portrayal involves another kind of like doctor ecologist character. In the original film, Max von Sydow plays Dr. Keynes.
Are you a Fremen?
I've been on Arrakis in the service of the Emperor long enough for my eyes to change.
Or Kynes, whatever. And in the remake, we get a gender swap from the book, which I thought was actually kind of interesting. But you got Sharon Duncan Brewster as Dr. Liet Kynes, the Imperial ecologist and judge of change on Arrakis.
He's locked the door.
In the books, I guess spoiler. In the books, Kynes is the father of Chani. Right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Which is why when they did the gender swap, I was like, huh. Oh. Because like, does that carry over? Like, are they going to keep that in the movie? I don't know. So Kynes is kind of like in the book. He's kind of like this character, like almost like in a Yui sense. You're like, whose side is this guy on? You know, because he's very loyal to the Fremen, but he has to work for the Duke. Mm-hmm. And in the background, there's some other stuff going on. He's basically trying to terraform the planet secretly.
Oh.
Yeah. So, stay tuned. Minor spoiler. Stay tuned. So it's a important character. I felt like kind of, you know, these two films seem to swap who they deem important enough to get screen time. I felt like Max van Sydow, you don't get a lot from him, right? Like, a lot of the stuff I'm saying, you're like, I don't know that. Right?
Yeah.
Because, like...
the biggest thing he does is explain how that suit works.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, the still suit. Just, hey, you pee in there? Well, you're going to be...
You can pee and shit in there, and it's okay.
Go right through this tube.
Don't worry, you're not going to be drinking that. You're going to be drinking your sweat. So that's cool.
Yeah. And, Sharon Duncan Brewster does that too, right? She explains the suits and stuff like that. I felt like she was a very strong character for the limited amount of screen time that she had. I think she just carried herself so well. And they do the thing with the sandworm with her, which isn't really in the book, but it's a good place to show this desert power. Desert power becomes like a drinking game at a certain point in that movie. Oscar Isaac says desert power. Paul says desert power. Zendaya says desert power. It's desert power. Keen's a minor major character, right? Like who they're related to is kind of important. What they're doing that we don't really know about in either of these films is kind of important. But it's, I thought that Brewster had the better run. And, when you have a precious property like that, doing something like a gender swap is a risky proposition. But I think I think it was worth it for that portrayal.
I think I guess that conflict as to like her role as like, having to follow the Emperor and still like working with House
Atreides.
Yeah. Thank you. And am I going to still work with House Atreides even though the Emperor betrayed them? Like, who do I follow here?
Right.
And then having that relationship with the Fremen too.
Yeah.
It's just the complexity of that character was just brought out a lot better in the remake as opposed to Max von Sydow, like who I said, just okay, he explained the suit. I don't even remember what he did after that. Like, I don't remember if he had a death. I really don't remember.
I don't either. Like, just very forgettable character, and who shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be forgettable.
No, I mean, if it's the father of the love interest, you know.
Liet Kynes, Dr. Kynes, basically helps Jessica and Paul survive. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, you get that in the remake. You get that it starts with Duncan, right, who gives the honorable death. Then Kynes is like, you know, go this way. I'll distract him that way. Right. Huge character. I don't know how important or if that connection is going to be there.
It probably will.
Probably, right? But again, this is actually one, like I said, Brewster, hands down. This is a nice jump into the Fremen. I think will probably be kind of the last set of...
Wait. There's one character I want to talk about. I was looking him up. It was the Mentat for our Baron.
Oh, yeah. What, Peter?
Yeah, Peter. Yeah.
Let's see, hold on.
I don't know who he is in the remake, but it's portrayed by Brad Dourif in the original, which is Chucky. Come on, man! I got Chucky in here.
You got me there. I was like, I don't need to worry about random Mentat. You're right. Yeah, Chucky.
And then who portrays him in the?
I don't know.
He's the guy from Suicide Squad. He's the polka dot man.
Oh shit! Hold up. Let me just look up Suicide Squad. The most recent one?
Yeah.
2021. Stop me if you see him. Polka dot man, David. Yeah. Okay. Dash Mount. I did name him. Yeah. So let's see. So Brad Dourif in the original film is playing the Mentat, and it's David Dash Malkian who plays him in the in the remake.
So yeah, just we talk about like the weirdness of like the Baron side. Like this guy's got huge ass eyebrows. He's got the super red lips. He like talks weird and he just like repeats these weird phrases to himself, and it's Chucky.
It's Chucky. That's a great pull, man. An alumni.
Yeah.
Retro versus remake alumni. So good character to bring out, because I would have just glossed past that, but you can't not mention Dourif.
I gotta mention Brad Dourif, man.
I mean, what are we doing here? So moving towards our Fremen, which I think probably be really the last players we're talking about here. In the original film, you've got Everett McGill, who's playing Stilgar, the kind of leader of the Fremen.
You have strength. You shall be known as Usul, which is the strength of the base of the pillar.
And the remake is Javier Bardem. And
there's no yielding under the Amtal rule. Only death is the test of it.
Man, McGill, whatever, right? Like, he's basically a bit player, because they're just like, we're focusing on Paul. We got that movie starts kind of racing to its conclusion. Like,
it really just picks up the pace. We just
got that.
The last half hour.
Hey, princess, tell them what's happening. Little baby, all right, go. The last half hour just picks up the pace. So Stilgar, we don't get to really see him in like kind of, again, the political implications of Stilgar and having Paul Atreides basically kind of, Paul's existence is dangerous to Stilgar because Paul's stronger than him. And the Fremen kind of operate off of like, who's the strongest? Right. That's why they have that fight with Jameis.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Javier, he's not, in terms of look, what I kind of expected Stilgar to look like, but I think he's a great Stilgar. Just that kind of...
he's just kind of chilling and shit happens. All right, they're going to fight now.
She's got the weirdly way, bro. Bardem, I'm looking forward to part 2, because he's going to be like heavily involved. And from what they've established, I just kind of like his general demeanor. So as things get more dangerous, I'd be interested to see how that character deals with it. So, Stilgar, great character. Stay tuned.
Again, just in the original, he's there. he really do much? Sometimes he maybe high fives Paul or something. I don't know. Yeah. He's really just a background player because, like you said, he's just introduced and then we're rushing to the end.
We're just moving forward, right? In another good Fremen character, very important Fremen character. In the original, you have Sean Young, who plays Chani.
I am Chani, daughter of Liet. I would not have permitted you to harm my tribe.
In the remake, it's Zendaya playing Chani. Yeah. So Chani, we get early intro to. She actually like tells you what's going on at the beginning of this remake. So that's quite the change.
She starts it.
Yeah. Right. The character that I guess because she's in the dreams, right? I guess it is decent to introduce her so early. But I do kind of like that we get the real Chani revealed later. I guess in the original film, like having Chani be the one telling you the story is kind of
I guess that kind of takes away, I guess, from like when
like
they
the
actually
mystery of
when they finally meet, because like in the original film, she's just this figure in his dreams that he sees sometimes, and you're just like, well, when are they gonna meet? When are they gonna meet? And then when she finally says the line to him, like, oh, tell me about your home planet, it's just like that's such a cool moment.
Yeah, it is
in that original film, but Zendaya doesn't really have that moment, I guess, because we start the movie with her.
Yeah, it's like she's basically explaining Dune. Like she's like the Harkonnens.
She's kind of taking Virginia Madison's role, almost not cheesy,
not nearly cheesy. I get it because like if you haven't read the books, you like if you don't have that intro, like what the hell's even? What are they fighting for? So she's like, this is who the Fremen are. This is what the Harkonnens are. But it does take away from like some of that mystery of Chani. And because this is a two-part film, and we're kind of just picking up when he meets Chani.
Yeah, like, just like 20 minutes left in the film when he meets her.
It's unfortunately she doesn't get to do Chani stuff yet.
Yeah. She's gonna be heavy in part 2
so
for sure.
Very important character. I mean, like, top 5 in importance in the book. So we'll see. Zendaya, I think like. I don't know. I felt like every scene they shot her, it felt like one of those like perfume commercials.
Yeah, it really did. Because it got the spice going too. Spice.
And she does pull off like that, like I could kill you vibe in a way that Sean Young, I didn't get that at all.
Like, like being a capable warrior.
Yeah. Zendaya, though, like physically, she doesn't actually look tough.
Right.
Like the way she kind of holds herself in the way that she's introduced, it's like okay, I can see her like killing people. Unfortunately, kind of like a wait and see. I just thought that the way they rushed Sean Young's character through, it weakened Chani dramatically in the film to the point where she was of like no consequence, which should not be the case at all.
Right. Yeah, because like it's cool because like you see these dreams of her, then he finally meets her, and then again you just gotta rush to that ending, and then we just don't really get like any real substance. Like it's like you see Paul go, "Oh, I love you." It's like, whoa, where the fuck did that come from? It's just so rushed.
Yeah.
Because we gotta get to that ending.
It's a shame. It's a shame, but we'll talk about the ending a little bit more towards the end.
Yeah.
And the last character, we finally mercifully made it to like the last characters that we're going to reference, is not in the remake yet, but has to be discussed. Alicia Witt playing Aaliyah in the original film.
It's crazy. She's so young.
I'm a messenger from Muad'Dib. Poor Emperor. I'm afraid my brother won't be very pleased with you.
I mean, I don't know her in like too many, but I just remember from that Sopranos episode where she's the D girl. Fucking D girl.
Fucking D girl. She's great in that. That's a great episode.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
Christopher. A lot of Dickie Montesanto in the mini Sons of Newark. They were like, all right, Book, I see what you did there. and we're just gonna do that. We're just gonna make a little like god brainchild because Jessica like is pregnant, and that is discussed in the remake, I believe.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
He says,
Like,
"I know you're pregnant." She's like, "How do you know?" Like, I barely know that.
Yeah, right. Like the powers of their perception are so great. There is something that happens with this child. Well, I mean, if you watch the original, fuck it. Spoilers if you're watching the remake and you want to go spoiler free, lunatic. Because of the water of life
that she drinks when she's pregnant, she becomes like a god.
Yeah. So their minds basically expand exponentially because of the spice, to the point where they have like control of like just, it's almost like being able to see the future. Like they have just knowledge of basically everything. And this little baby from birth is basically like a full grown woman, like knows languages, customs, and like it's jarring for the Fremen because she's just like, I'm just like this, in their mind, almost like demon kids. Like I just yeah.
And she ages a lot faster. Like she's only 2 years old, but she's able to like be 10.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But a fun character, gets some Gom Jabbar action in the remake. Excuse me, Gom Jabbar action in the original. So that's something. But a character that I have to discuss because it's the craziest part of the movie. Like it's great. I love it. Favorite character. So that's kind of like about where you can stop with characters, because like we mentioned, the remake is in 2 parts.
Right.
We kind of stop at the meeting of the Fremen, which is kind of like almost like a halfway point in the book. So it makes sense to stop there. Interesting casting. I felt that, just to put a button on the casting part of this conversation, everyone that they cast, minus like maybe Jessica, I was like, yo, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like I like that casting choice, and I felt that like kudos to the casting directors for this Dune remake, because it felt Dune-like. Everything that they did with the costumes and the characters, I was like, yeah, this kind of freaking works. That original though, like not every character works, but the ones that do, man, they really work. So those are our cast and crew. I guess moving forward, like with the universe building, because I would say like the universe of the character in and of itself. Like, what were your takes on kind of like how they portrayed this like futuristic kind of universe?
I mean, I really liked a lot of the practical effects in the original film. Me too. And the set pieces looked pretty grand and pretty incredible. Yeah. It didn't look like, well, that looks stupid. I mean, talking about
the worm part.
Well, the worm wasn't too bad. I mean,
well, when he rode the worm, was kind of what I'm getting at.
I kind of like that part. I thought that was really fucking cool.
It kind of had like a swords and sandals kind of feel to it, the way they shot it.
I just thought it was really cool, and he climbs the worm, and then like you got the epic music playing. Okay. I don't know if it's Toto. It's just it worked for me. Yeah, I don't know. Cool. It was like he's riding the worm, and they did that in such a cool way too, because like I guess I don't know how the book does it, but like I don't think the Fremen had ridden worms until Paul did it in the original film. But it looks like the remake looks like we're already seeing people riding worms. Yeah, I think that the worm riding happened too early in the remake. That desert power doesn't really get discovered by the likes of him until later, when he's more involved with the Fremen. So, like it was cool because they're like, we got to show the worm. Like people would revolt if you don't show some of the worm stuff. So, I get why they did what they did in the remake by introducing it earlier and having Kynes like ready to ride a worm when she brought hooks and stuff.
So that was cool.
That was cool, but I do like that it's kind of Paul, our kind of Messiah guy that does it. He drinks the water of life, and then he's able to ride the worm. Dude, it reminded me of like Shadow Colossus. It was just so fucking badass. Yeah. I was like, man, I'm in on this Dune.
They swapped the order of events, so the water of life should have happened after the worm riding, but it doesn't matter.
Is that what happens?
Yeah, but it doesn't fucking matter.
But I still think it's cool because
it is cool.
He needs the water of life, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I can master like this giant worm thing. And not for nothing, I thought the worms looked pretty fucking good in that.
The worms look really good in the original,
and like they really did a great job of just capturing the size of it.
Yes.
Like especially when that first spice mining machine gets just swallowed by the worm, just like seeing it like surrounded, and that's just like its teeth. It's like, oh my god, this thing is huge. So. Really good effects for the worm.
I mean, like, to the point where there were things happening in this 84 film that I was like, I don't understand what that thing in the jar that talked weird was. I don't know what that was, because I didn't read anything like that. But, like, just the weird mouth it had and stuff like that. Like, it was like the guild guy giving orders to the emperor. Like that giant,
it was the guild thing, and that's the reason they could travel, or they fold. They're the things that fold space. Yeah, that was just weird.
I don't know what the fuck that was, guys.
Yeah, the thing that like when it talked, like shit came out of his mouth, and it's like it looked like it kind of looked like a vagina or something. Yeah. But, so we got the worms that look like dicks, and I'm just going to say this because Sam said I got to bring this up. So the worms kind of look like dicks in the original, and then they kind of look like buttholes in the remake.
They did look like buttholes in the remake. This is true. So the 84 film, you're right. Like the practical effects worked really well. I think that like that was kind of like, besides the Baron, the star of the show, like that almost like steampunky planet that the Harkonnens are on, and just like we mentioned, like some people don't have eyeballs, they have like telescopic. It was weird and crazy, but like they leaned into it, they committed, and by committing, every planet felt like unique.
Right.
Caladan, it was like there were some waves and stuff like that, but like when you saw like castles and shit like that, like or whatever that was, it looked real. It looked good.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like was that a matte painting? Like how did they get? Because obviously no CGI in that original film, so it was just a really good job. And like you said, great distinct looks between the different planets, because we got a lot of things going on here. So making things easy to identify for me is a great job.
Yep.
So good job to that original film, and then getting to the look of the remake. The look of the planets was, I just felt like meh kind of about it, because like
after seeing 84,
especially it's like a lot of monochrome going on, and not very colorful. Like I get it, like it's a lot more serious and more grounded, I guess. But like like we could have a little bit of flash here with the look of the planets.
I think what the remake does well is the costume design.
Yeah,
like this feudal, futuristic, like almost like imperial military kind of garb. Like it's the future, but guys are reading scrolls and stuff like that. Like I think that like I liked the way that looked, because it felt like, okay, I could see this being ripped from the book, right? The 84 film, I'm like, I don't know if this was in the book, but it's cool. This remake feels a lot like they're like, we're doing Dune, and I was like, okay, I can respect that. But you're right, the planets themselves aren't distinct. It's the characters. In this case, I really like the fact that both were distinct in the original. Like it was out there, man.
Yeah.
David Lynch is mad genius.
Yeah, like you said, the set of the Harkonnen?
Yeah, Harkonnen.
Like, that was just, again, going back to like the Baron's like, ugh, I don't want to look at that. It's like, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
That place looks terrible, man.
It actually reminded me a lot of like Final Fantasy VII. Like that that city that they live in and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the Midgard. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can see that.
It was like, wow, this is super cool. So ultimately I think, like I said, man, I actually do have to nod to the original in terms of just pure creativity.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
The remake, in terms of like what I would expect Dune to look like, I think they I think they've captured that.
Yeah, I just think because that original film just like it just really has a distinct look, and it's like some stuff like wow, I really never really saw anything like that. I guess people could say it, especially at the time. And like Dune, it's like all right, I've seen this in other movies before, so I wasn't really blown away by anything visually. Even like the size of the worms, like they're obviously huge in the remake too, but like I still feel like the original did it so well. And I wasn't really wowed by the remake doing it.
That's true. Like the most distinct thing I recall from the remake is like the Thopters. I was like, why are they like dragonflies? Like the little. Yeah,
that was a weird choice. I didn't like that. I thought that was kind of stupid.
I agree. Actually, I was like, nothing in the book that I remember made me think that that's what a Thopter would look like, and it just seems like the most inefficient way to.
Yeah, it really doesn't seem effective at all. It's like well, just have a rocket on it or something. Yeah, why it has to be flapping its wings around.
It's like I get you're trying to like create this like universe, but like I was like no.
I get that.
It's too advanced for that to be that stupid. But
yeah, we're folding space and time here, and you got a plane that flaps its wings. It definitely felt like, well, fucking planes don't even do that now. Come on. Right. It feels like a step backwards.
It really did. It really did. And it's like having a future where you're fighting with swords and like space shields, basically.
Right.
Like, yeah, we can play with like this kind of like anachronistic, like it's we're using swords and muskets and shit, but like it has to still feel futury. And, for the most part, I think they were pulling that off, but the Thopters really didn't feel right. And I think the worms, they didn't. Yeah, the grandeur of the worm wasn't as influential as the original film. So, yeah, weirdly, I know there's issues with pacing at a certain point, but like I think that original film just took some really big chances and swings, and this remake, I think, to a certain extent, played it safe because look at that cast. I mean, like it's a great cast. Like that on its own is going to get you across the finish line, but like it could have taken more risk. That I don't think they. I mean, it's a huge franchise, so I get why they.
They played it safe. The look of that '84 film is just I don't know. It's incredible. I really like what they did, and we've kind of seen this Dune. I was watching it and I was like, man, this really feels like the Blade Runner, the new one that came out. And then I was like, oh, it's the same fucking director. That's why it feels like Blade Runner.
Same Dave Bautista.
No, I mean he captured like that vast feeling of the desert really well.
The desert was pulled off really well. I think like I said, I mean the biggest achievement I think is the costume designs. I felt like the still suits looked right. I felt like the uniforms that people wore, like I said, the mentats, like everything that like involved costume and makeup. I was like, okay. And some of the things that involved like setting, I was like, it didn't seem like it didn't feel like a lived-in universe. It felt kind of like just like a set at times. So. Whatever the hell was happening in '84, I was like, just a day in the life of the Baron, just bouncing around, dude. In terms of action, I would say I gotta give it up to the remake.
Obviously,
I mean, obviously, the action set pieces were shot very, very well.
I mean, because it's obviously fight choreography has improved vastly since that original film. So I do want to talk about that.
Sting kicking you in the nuts.
Man, I mean, where do I even start with the original film? You know where I'm gonna start? I'm gonna start with Paul kind of training. So that fight with Patrick Stewart,
that was crazy.
Wearing the Tetris cube armor, it's so cheesy, and it's just like, what the fuck am I watching at the same time?
It's so crazy.
But, I'm going to remember that because it's just so bizarre. But after that, when Paul is training with the, I forgot what the gun.
Yeah, I don't know what
the voice gun
maybe
thing.
That's a thing.
But he has this contraption, this machine that comes down with like little knives stabbing. It's
the Stabtron 9000.
That was so dumb. That did not age well. I don't know if it was impressive in the 80s. Like, look at that. He's fighting a machine. Man versus machine. This is so cool. But in this day and age, it just looks comical.
It was pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Yeah, and like the amount of like random gunplay, like the voicing, I don't know where that came from. Maybe in some of the future books they do that. Maybe it's just a choice because it was the 80s and like, how do we make this like cool? Like, he kills people with his voice.
I thought that was kind of cool. It reminded me of Skyrim.
Fools rolled up.
That. I don't know actual. So that's I was like, oh, it's like Skyrim. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. I thought it was like unique, and I don't know where the hell it came from, but I was like, all right.
Yeah.
Like when they get the weirdling ways, they're just like blasting. Whoa, fucking, you die.
My name is a weapon.
Yeah. I thought that was really well done. Like I said, with the pace though, the stakes and like kind of Paul's inner monologue, you'd think would be a little more active because it should be a conflict for him to rule this planet, and it didn't feel like it was a conflict.
Oh no, not at all. He was like, all right, new shit.
And then I started blasting.
Definitely just my Frank Reynolds in the end of that movie.
It was great. It was great. And I mean, the music, I don't know. I was so distracted by everything going on. I was like, I'm sure Toto was great. I
like the theme. That theme song. I don't know if that was Brian Eno or if that was Toto, but that theme song. Yeah. And then like when he's riding the worm and that music's blasting, I'm in.
That was cool.
This is awesome.
Wow. Yeah, that was great. That was great.
It's definitely was a really good soundtrack, and Hans Zimmer does it.
It works because you get this big set piece action with the
it works with the scale of the film.
Yeah. So Hans is one of the best in the business.
Yeah.
You know? He's good at what he does. So I thought that worked really well. I guess other than that, I guess we could talk about the endings.
Yeah, I guess we can get to the ending.
All right. Since I'm the book shepherd here, the original film, we'll start there, right? Because it actually ends. The original film, like, basically once you get to, like, the Fremen, Stilgar and the Fremen, it's like, all right, we've got 600 to 700 more pages to get through.
Squeeze it in there.
Tighten it up. Because, like, even, like, the kid just instantly more, the baby thing was born premature. I was like, what? Why? It was like, cuz it needs to be here.
Cuz you drank the water. Weren't you paying attention? That just happened.
It just felt like shit was happening. That happens in the book, but like Princess Aruna, it felt like they were just pushing out there. It was like, just tell them what's going on.
Yeah.
While like things were just blowing up.
I mean, 2 years go by.
2 years go by and like 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah, and usually that shit happens like in the beginning, maybe the middle of the movie. No, we're doing it at the end. We're rushing. It's just the pacing just was all off at the end.
Super off. Stilgar, you're in charge now. I'm in charge now. You kill people with your voice, huh? You're killing people? Baby, right? Baby's doing this. It all kind of like just speeds by, like you said, gets that 2 years out of the way. Like the spice production is lower because Paul realizes that he who controls the spice controls the universe. Mm-hmm. So now the Baron and the Emperor have to meet him on his terms because what are they going to do? They need spice.
Spice.
So, more or less, like, they just kind of rush through the book to get to, like, this big fight scene with Fade, Rotha, and Paul. Sting's got a hip blade. That's in the book. And I just, I guess, what do I keep saying? But spoilers. Paul's able to defeat Fade. And you've got the Emperor there, the Baron there. The Baron gets like gum-jabbered by a kid, and then like Wonka blasted out of a wall. I thought that was kind of crazy. And you're at this kind of set piece now where like Paul has succeeded against Fade. At this point, I don't think they do it in the movie, but like at this point, he basically makes an alliance with the Emperor because he marries the Emperor's daughter for political purposes.
No.
Doesn't happen in the...
I don't think that happens.
No, it doesn't happen in the movie. They just kind of like go outside like, that's crazy. And then it's kind of like in the movie. In alphabetical order.
Here's our cast.
Yeah. Yeah. Which made it really hard to do the breakdown for the film because they don't cast in terms of importance. They cast in alphabetical order, so I gotta like find people.
Right.
It was rough. But yeah, it's just this rush ending, and I felt like it's a shame because the setup was great.
Yeah.
The setup was really great, and they were just like, we got to do all of Dune. It's like maybe they would have done well to split it up.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it is something that needs to be split up or serialized because I just didn't feel like the importance of like that event was there. Right? Just like I killed Sting, and now I'm wearing a cape because I'm the boss, and that's the movie.
Yeah. Once he drinks the water of life and rides the worm, we have that 2 years later.
Yeah.
What the fuck just happened? Yeah, it's like I said, it was a 4-hour movie and it got condensed into 2. You know, they tried to talk to David Lynch to like, hey, let's release this, and he will have nothing to do with this. He won't even talk about Dune.
Wow. Which is a shame because I think he actually did a reasonable job.
Yeah.
It's out there. I think that like people weren't ready for it when it came out. I think that in a weird way it's actually aged well because it's so like referential to that time period. You know, like that is this is one of the most 80s movies I've ever seen.
Yeah,
you know, unapologetically 80s, and it kind of works because it's Dune 84, right? Like that's the way to describe that movie. It's 1984 definitely. Dune, and really fucking interesting. Doesn't always work, but works enough that I'm like, hey, I'm recommending it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's crazy and you'll love it. It's just such a weird movie, but like in a good way.
Yeah, it's a shame that we will never get to see like the original vision.
Yeah.
Like I would love to see
the
that
4-hour
thing. Obviously not one sitting, but then that'll get rid of those awkward voiceovers, and it'll establish more of those relationships.
Yeah.
Things will have a lot more weight to them that happen at the end. So but there's a lot of good in there.
There is a lot of good. There's a lot of good, and the original Dune is kind of considered unfilmable, right? Up until like the point that we're at, literally now, 2021. People are like, it can't be done. Like they've done it as like a series before that, mixed reviews. I thought, for what it was, I thought the 84 kind of worked. So like to me, it's like it's not unfilmable. It's just like just get out of the guy's way, let him finish it. Like is it going to be like the book at all times? Absolutely fucking not. But like it's the 80s interpretation of Dune. Like I'm glad to see that text through that lens. It was pretty crazy. Dune 2021, the ending. Well, because it's 2 parts, you don't really get the ending. I think that where they chose to end was a probably pretty smart place. Duke Lato has been betrayed. Don't forget Tooth. Bite down on that Tooth, buddy. The Baron's able to escape death. Paul
barely though.
Barely.
Yeah, he's recovering. He's assuming that Paul and his mother are dead.
Yes, that is the assumption. Like no one knows that they're still alive, minus basically at this point the Fremen.
Yeah.
And that's because Dr. Kyne's last sacrifice allowed them to escape. And even Yui, who betrayed them, kind of set up the stage for them to be able to continue to live. So his betrayal was more like in his self-interest to like save his wife, but he still had enough loyalty to protect Paul and Jessica.
Yeah, and he's the one that sets up the Tooth, so he wants to like. He's like triple betray.
Yeah,
triple cross.
Yui's got a lot going on. He's got a lot going on. For the death of Idaho, for them to escape, I thought it was interesting for them to like combine. Well, it is combined. It doesn't matter. It was a good combination of the Idaho death into Kynes helping them escape. From here, it's a little tough because it doesn't really end, right?
It's the beginning. It's just the beginning.
It is just the beginning. once they escape, they try to do some like sand walking. That was fun.
Kind of like moonwalking.
Yeah, yeah. I saw something on the internet that was like, it was on Black Twitter. It was like, oh, white people don't have. Like, basically,
you don't have to worry about
rhythm.
The rhythm.
Yeah. I was like, he's perfect. He's the Messiah.
I think I did say out loud at one point, like, just do the white people dance. Yeah. You'll be fine.
Just do the little kicks, man. I could see them doing little kicks through the desert. Having Jessica and Paul have to kind of survive the desert, very much like the book. Once they come across Stilgar and his group, very much like the book. Jessica's able to get the upper hand on Stilgar, which kind of makes her and Paul now slightly in charge because they're the strongest. Jameis, who's not in the original, who is in the book, foolishly challenges Paul to a fight.
That was kind of a cool fight too, because he had him like dead to rights so many times. Like, do you yield? It was like Batman.
Yeah.
Or like Jason Bourne.
Yeah.
Just how fast the kid was.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And in the book, actually, because that's not the Fremen way. Like, if you have the upper hand, you just kill someone.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, why is he toying with Jameis? Because they couldn't understand that, like, he doesn't want to kill him.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, well, why the fuck not, man? Like, you can kill him. So, I am interested that it looks like they're going to give proper time to this Fremen way. I think it's actually some of the more compelling parts of the book when he starts his progression through his hero's journey. So, we get right to the edge. Right to the edge. And, Zendaya is definitely going to make her money's worth in future film. I thought the Jameis fight, though it was cool, was I think where 2021 struggles is scope, in the sense that, like, that fight is more dangerous than it looked on film.
Okay.
And there's a lot of implication that's just unsaid, but it's a movie, so you can't say everything, right?
Well, I mean, they could, but then there'd be like the original film.
Right. So, but I think for what they did do, it was perfect. I thought, shit. I thought it worked really well. But yeah, the movie doesn't really end. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's not going to end because it says Dune Part 1.
Part 1.
So.
And they've greenlit production, which of course they were, for Part 2. I'd be surprised if most of it's not filmed already.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if. It'd be crazy not to. So, yeah, it's an interpretation. I'd say, like, if you read half of the book Dune, you were prepared for this film. And then you got time to read the other half before the next one comes out, probably 2 years from now.
Yeah, 2022.
Man, that's usually how this shit works.
Oh, actually, maybe 1 year. It's 2021. Fuck.
Really? Wow, 2022, that fast?
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, they probably filmed some of it. So
yeah. So, I know a lot of the internet was kind of complaining that, like, the movie doesn't end, but I think this was the proper way to approach this scope, because it's still a long movie. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, for half of the story, and really only a bit of the story because there's like 8 books.
It's crazy. Oh, my bad. It is 2023. My bad.
Okay.
I was right. It was 2 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense to me. It's about the turnaround time for this stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I guess ultimately
verdict time.
Verdict time. Yeah.
So going into this, after watching the original and going for that wild ride, I was just like, what does the remake really have to do in order to, justify being made? So one thing was like, hopefully the cheese from that original film. Obviously, you got to just make it for a modern audience, and they're obviously able to do that pretty easily. And the other thing is, like, are we gonna just cram it all in? I didn't know this was gonna be part 1.
Right. I didn't know that until basically it came out.
So are we gonna try to cram it all in, or are we gonna stretch it out, have some room to breathe here? And again, they did that because we are gonna have a part 2. Do I think it was Perfect movie? No. I was a little bored at times. I definitely fell asleep while watching it. And, you know, that original Dune, just so many memorable things that I don't think that we're gonna have in the remake, even in the part 2.
No chance.
So, but for what it is, it's definitely solid telling of the Dune story, and they're gonna have the freedom to tell it in 2 parts that it'll just be better overall than that original film. And I am looking forward to seeing what they do in part 2. That's ultimately what it came down to. Like, do I want to see part 2? And I do want to see part 2. This discussion with you has made me actually want to see it more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely think that this Dune remake should exist.
Yeah. I'm very glad that I, you know, made a goal for myself during the pandemic to read Dune. I know some people that read it, and I mean, Pre's got a copy downstairs. So I was like, oh, I want to read this before this movie comes out. It's a goal. And I'm glad that I reached that goal because it really helped me with viewing both of these films. I think without the source material, both films do stand on their own, right? 84 in some very big way. But like, from the casting of this remake, every time I saw someone, especially in costume, I was like, yes, that's what I kind of thought this was going to look like. Oscar Isaac's a great Lato. Timothée Chalamet, like, I'm interested to see him and like the Chani character with Zendaya. I'm interested to see that really open up because I think Timothy's pretty muted in this film. So we'll see if that continues. But I gotta imagine he's got to like open up that character a bit more. Javier Bardem Stilgar. It's really like, for me, the fact that all these characters are so interesting and the universe building that they've done to the point where you want to see the second film, to the point where like I'm watching the action and I'm like, all right, that's not Patrick Stewart with a pug and a gun, but like, you know, it's something that approximates what I expect Dune to kind of look like. I just think that they figured out the formula for the universe, which is really impressive because it's a hard book to tackle in film. And it seems like the director and the entire cast understand what they need to do. I agree with you. It's certainly not a perfect film. If you don't have background on it, a lot of the stuff is just window dressing. You like, what are you looking at, right? But the story's competent enough that it stands on its own. And, you know, I agree. I want to see the next film. I think this is about as good as you can make a Dune film.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is an accomplishment. So, yeah, this remake should exist because it's the closest thing to what Frank Herbert put to paper being portrayed in film. Although 84 took that and like remixed it, made it very interesting. So shout out to the original film because it's crazy. But this remake it's beyond serviceable. I was going to say serviceable. I guess we'll know for sure during part 2. But for now, we seem to be off to a good start. So yeah, good. It should exist.
Yeah, I still think it would be better as a series. Yeah, because you have a lot more time to establish things because there's so much going on in the Dune universe, and there's a lot of interesting things too. Yeah. But we got to rush past it, and then you might not understand it, and then we could get relationships established more too.
I think that will come because this franchise is going to make a lot of money. Yeah. So I'm sure someone's going to try to tackle that. For me, I actually kind of like the fact that it's just a movie, but I think it's because I read the book, right? So it's like, like good enough. Like, let's see. I just want to see kind of that stuff happen. But like a series could be good because you could expand into further Dune universe. Yeah. So there's a lot going on with.
I was just saying, like, because as a movie, it's a lot to take in, and like I said, I fell asleep. So like, you know, give me like 1 hour chunks. I'm good with that.
that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting. So yeah, that's what we thought about Dune 1984 and Dune 2021. Pretty impressed actually all around.
Yeah, I'm glad I finally saw the original Dune just because I've heard so many things about it and just like finally
seeing it. It's a whole
different thing than just hearing about it. Yeah,
totally. So that's that. Do you know what the next film you want to watch is? Oh, you got one?
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna change it up completely.
Okay.
We're gonna revisit a director we did before. So the movie I want to do is the Stepford Wives.
Oh wow,
that's So that's Frank Oz returning. He did the Little Shop of Horrors remake.
Nice.
He did the remake of Stepford Wives.
Okay,
so we're gonna see how this.
Let's see how that goes.
We're gonna see how this is completely change of pace here.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what we're gonna do next. Stepford Wives. So let us know what you thought of either Dune film. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Did we miss something? Should we have talked about something?
We definitely missed something.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. And if you're listening on iTunes, if you can give us a 5-star, good review, that would definitely help us out. If you're on YouTube, just give us a thumbs up, subscribe. Why not? Help us out there too.
Smash that like button. Yeah. Of course, check us out on Instagram, Twitter at Retro versus Remake. We've got a Facebook group too. So like Dan said, check us out. iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to see our beautiful faces, that's on YouTube. So nice. Dan, he who controls the spice controls the universe. That's what I learned, I think, after 4.5 hours of Dune. Hey, I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. This has been another episode of Retro versus Remake.
Spice.
Spice is life.